In this presentation, we will create a sales by item report within QuickBooks Pro 2020, QuickBooks Desktop 2020. Here we are in our Get Great Guitar file. We currently have the open windows open. You can open the open windows by selecting the view dropdown and the open windows list. We're now going to be creating a sales by item summary. We know that any other report other than our major reports, the income statement and the balance sheet, are going to be supporting in some way the income statement and balance sheet. The sales report, anything that says sales related to it, is talking about income, an income type of account or revenue type of account. Therefore, it will be supporting in some way the profit and loss report. We're going to start off there. We always want to think about, what's going to be the source document or what is the financial statement that this report will be supporting. So I'm going to go to the drop down for the reports. We're going to go to the company and financial. We will then select the profit and loss standard. We're going to change the dates up top from 01/01/20 to 02/29/20. That's January through February 2020. We're talking about sales, therefore we're thinking about the income items, and we're considering this total sales or income of $19,275.40. Now let's consider the sales by item summary. We can get there in a couple different ways. One, we can go to the reports drop down once again. We can go to the sales and then find the sales by item summary. Or if we're not as familiar with these types of reports, it might be easier for us to then go to the Reports Center, as we will do now. Reports, drop down, then Reports Center. I'm going to maximize this screen. We're currently in the Standard tab. We're going to then go down to the Sales. Within Sales, we want to look at the Sales by Item. So we have the Sales by Customer Detail, then the Sales by Ship Address, Sales Graph, and then we have the Sales by Items. So we want the Sales by Item summary as opposed to the detail. We could change the dates here. I would just run the report and then change the dates once it is open. There is our reports. We will now change the date from 01/01/20 to 02/29/20. That's January through February 2020. So this report's a little bit more detailed. So it's a little bit more confusing because, the main reason is because we have the inventory items as well with the cost of goods sold and the average cost and so on and so forth. However, the total bottom line number is that 18,775.4. That's the amount that we can tie out to the profit and loss, or should be able to. However, it will be off 18,775.4 minus, and we'll think about why it will be off. If we go to the profit and loss report, we're currently at the 19, so minus the 19,275.4. It's off by that $500. You'll recall that $500, if we double click on the merchandise sales, double-clicking on merchandising sales, is an adjusting journal entry. So just noting that now, we'll talk about why the adjusting journal entry is there when we get to that in a later point in the course. Closing this back out. Going back to the sales by item summary, if we analyze this report, it's breaking it out between inventory items and service items. So these are the two types of things that we can sell. You'll recall that we talked about lists up top in the drop down before, and we talked about the item list. Within the item list, we had inventory items and service items. These are the items that we are going to sell, the items that we will set up. These items will then be used to generate the sales receipts and invoices that will be used to generate sales, which of course this report is now being generated from as well. It's supporting this sales number on the income statement. So it's breaking them out. We sell, in our case, guitars. So these are the guitars we sold. And then we had the service items. These are going to be the service items. So we had the Angela guitar lessons, diagnostics, hourly service, and so on and so forth. When we think about the inventory, the more complicated of the two sections, typically, because we have to deal with the inventory, obviously. So we had the guitars here. This is the quantity of sales. This is the amount, then, of the 1,500 total. So in other words, we sold 3 of these items that total out to be total sales of 1,500 for the 3 of them. Then we have the percentage of sales. The percentage of sales, for example, would take this 1,500 divided by the total sales of the 18,775.4. And if I move that over, it'd be about 8%, moving the decimal place over 2 places and rounding. Then we have the average price. In other words, the price of 500 times 3 is the 1,500. Then we have the cost of goods sold total for the 3 items was 1,200. Then we have the average cost. In other words, the 400 times the 3 units gives us the average cost of 1,200. Then we have the gross profit, which is going to be the 300, which is the sales minus the cost of goods sold. And then we have the gross profit margin. The gross profit margin calculated as, if we pull up the calculator here, the gross profit, which is going to be the 300. Well, you can see that the gross profit is going to be the 1,500 minus the 1,200, which is the sales amount minus the cost of goods sold is 300. If we take that amount and divide it by the sales amount, which is the 1,500, we get the gross margin percent, which is 20%. So closing this back out. Then obviously if we go down to the service items, they're a lot more straightforward. We don't have any of this cost of goods sold, average cost of goods sold, gross margin kind of stuff. All we have is the quantity that we sold. Now, when we think of quantity, obviously we're thinking about service items here. We did services, so we didn't sell actually things. So note that what happened here is we set up these items, such as Angela guitar lessons, in our system. We created invoices for them. And so you're talking about how many guitar lessons, how many service items were there. So 22 guitar lessons in this case. Then the amount, the 3,300, the percentage of the total again, the percentage of the total, and then the average price. Let's go ahead and format these things. Doing the similar type of formatting, we're going to go to the customized reports up top. We're going to go to the headers and footers. I'm going to remove the date prepared, time prepared, the report basis. We're going to put our company name, which is going to be the mock name, Smith CPA, on the bottom. There, we're going to go to our fonts and numbers, and we're going to be doing our similar type of process here. Any negative numbers, we're going to put parentheses around. We're going to make them red. We're also going to be removing the pennies so that the report has no sense, although it still makes sense. So we're going to say OK. And there we have it. It looks a little bit cleaner, a little bit nicer to read. Now we're going to go ahead and print this as a PDF file. We'll export it to an existing Excel worksheet, and then we'll make that Excel worksheet into one PDF file with all reports we have made thus far. To do that, we're going to go up top to the print option. We're going to print the report. I'm going to print it to the Qt PDF printer, so we're going to go ahead and print. Also note, by the way, that it's defaulting to landscape down here. And it's also fitting to one page. So if I was to preview it, QuickBooks is kind of saying, hey, I think this report is going to be needing to be landscape, and then it's going to force it to fit on one page. Now, that could make the font a little bit smaller. You might want to adjust the settings a bit, because if you print this report along with other reports, then the font might be a little bit smaller, and you might want to adjust it in some other format than to kind of force it the way QuickBooks is doing here. Landscape is okay. But when you force this to happen down here, then the size of the font will be whatever it needs to be to fit on a page. And you could adjust it by trying to adjust the columns and so on like that. I won't do it now, but you can adjust the columns. You can adjust the font size and stuff like that to make those adjustments, which might be easier. Or you can export it to Excel, which has more formatting options, which might be easier to maneuver with. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and print it. Let's do that again. I got distracted. We're going to print it, and we're going to print it to the Qt PDF printer. Then we're going to get our dialog box to ask us where we want to put it. I'm going to put that right under the name. I'm going to go into the Financial Reports 2020, and then we're going to put it in here somewhere. So I'm going to call this then the Sales by Item Summary 2020. There we have it. Now I'm going to export it to Excel as well. So I'm going to select the Excel up top, create a new worksheet. So we're going to create a new worksheet. We're going to put it into an existing workbook that we have set up in a previous presentation. If you don't have one, you can make a new workbook. We're going to put it into this workbook, and then I will say export to it. Here we have it. We can do our normal type of formatting. I'm going to go all the way to the left here. I'm going to click on this worksheet, right click on it, delete it. I'm going to get rid of that worksheet. And then I'm going to go all the way to the right. I'm going to find that new sheet that has been set up. There it is. I'm going to pull it to the right. So I'm going to left click on it. I'm going to pull it all the way to the right. So now it is in order. We're then going to go to the page layout tab, and say OK. We see then our page splits or our screen splits or whatever those are. I'm going to go to the View tab up top, Windows Group, and remove the splits. And there we have that. We can see it doesn't fit on one page. We're going to have to deal with that. Go to double click on the sheet down below. I'm going to call this the sales by item. Let's just keep it at that. And then I'm going to go back to the first tab. And now you got these little dotted lines that tell you where the pages are going to break. So the first thing we'll try to do is go to landscape, go to the page layout, and then we'll go to the landscape view. And so that pushes it out a bit, and then we can delete some of these columns we don't need. All these columns don't have data in them. So I'm going to select, for example, column A, holding down Control, E, G, I, K, M, O, Q, and then I'm going to right click on one of those selected columns. Right click on one of those selected columns, if I can, and then I'm going to delete it. And there we have that. Now it fits on a page. That looks good. Now we're going to go ahead and print this entire report, everything that we have so far. We're going to go to the File tab up top. We're going to go to Print, and then we're going to print the entire workbook. We're going to print the entire workbook, and then it's going to the Qt PDF printer. Then we're going to print it. So there we have that. And that should give us a new dialog box that should pop up. We're then going to put this in the section 1 through 4. We're going to overwrite this file, say save, and then yes. Here is our report. We got the section 1 through 4. So if I double click on that, I'm going to delete this one because it doesn't have all the information yet. So I'm going to delete that. And then we could give this information if I double click on the financial reports. We have all the reports here. So now we got a lot of reports. If we add all these to an email, it could be kind of overwhelming. We could simplify that by right-clicking on the file, and we could create one file, attaching that one file, or we can give the Excel document, if that would be okay, to whoever we are sending it to, or we can send our PDF file that has all the reports in it. If we look at it, it would look like this, where we have the balance sheet, the profit and loss, the comparative balance sheet. At the end of the comparative balance sheet, the summary balance sheet, the income statement, the comparative profit and loss, the vertical analysis profit and loss, the sales by customer, which is the chart, the two charts, and then the expense charts, which could be formatted better. And then we have the sales by customer summary. And finally, we have the sales by item summary. Notice how it changes to a landscape orientation as we go through here. Not too bad in a PDF file when you open it in this format. It could be a little bit different, or cause some problems if you print out the document, because you'll have to think about how to put the landscape items in there. So you might want to consider if you want to format this to fit in a portrait type of format or not. So that's just another thing to keep into consideration.